It was a cold morning in Essex 2024 when auctioneer James Parker opened a dusty old box. Inside were handwritten letters by Princess Diana. Most were warm thank you notes, but one, sealed and untouched for 26 years, stood out. Cream-colored, addressed to Princess Anne. That single letter changed everything. The kind of discovery that doesn't just whisper secrets, it shouts them. And just like that, the mystery began. It wasn't just some letter, it had a red wax seal with Diana's personal crest, not the usual royal stamp. This was different. Diana only used this special seal when it really mattered, and now here it was, intact, unopened, and full of secrets. Word spread fast. Historians, royal watchers, and experts rushed to Essex. One of them, Dr. Sarah Matthews, who had spent years studying Diana's writings, couldn't believe how untouched it was. Most old letters look aged, folded, stained, and faded, but this one, it looked like Diana had written it yesterday, and it made it even more haunting. The letter had passed through 3 private collectors. The last owner, a retired banker named Thomas Henderson, bought it in 2001 from someone who once worked for the royal family. That person's identity? Still a mystery. So what was in it? What could Diana possibly have to say to Anne, the sister-in-law who never seemed close to her? When the letter was finally opened, it wasn't filled with anger or pain. It wasn't dramatic. It was gentle, thoughtful. Written in early 1997, just months before Diana died in that tragic car crash in Paris, the letter was her quiet prediction for the royal family's future, and a request that would shake everyone who read it. Diana spoke calmly about the world changing. She believed the royal family would have to adapt or face trouble. She wrote about how powerful the media was becoming and how it could crush anyone in its way. She also worried deeply about her boys, William and Harry, and how the spotlight would change them. These weren't just fears, they were warnings. But the most shocking part? She asked Anne, Princess Anne, the no-nonsense all-duty royal, to look after her sons if anything ever happened to her. That's huge, especially because everyone thought Diana and Anne were cold toward each other. But this letter, it revealed something else, something hidden. Suddenly, everyone saw their relationship in a new light. Back in 1997, Diana was taking big risks. She was traveling to dangerous places for charity, like Angola, where she famously walked through a minefield. That work made powerful people nervous. People who didn't like that a princess was stepping into political territory. Diana knew the risks. Her letter made that clear. But she was willing to keep going. She wasn't afraid for herself. She was afraid of what might happen to her children if she couldn't be there anymore. Royal historian Dr. James Bennett said it best. Diana saw the future. She understood the system better than anyone realized. And that's true, because almost everything she wrote about has come true. The palace? Silent. They didn't deny the letter. They didn't confirm it either. But experts in handwriting and royal history believe it's real. The ink, the paper, the wording, it all matches Diana's other letters from early 1997. Today the letter is safely kept at the British Library, but its contents have started a firestorm. Suddenly, people are rethinking everything they knew about Diana's last days and her complicated connection with Anne. And that's the real twist here. Diana, who many thought stood completely alone in the royal family, had quietly trusted Anne. The woman who seemed the least likely to be her ally turned out to be the one she reached out to with her most personal, most vulnerable message. Why Anne? That's the question everyone's still asking. It makes more sense when you look at the months before Diana's death. Something had changed in her. She wrote more often. Her handwriting, usually smooth and elegant, became rushed and uneven. Her bodyguard at the time recalled finding her up at 3 a.m. still writing, with sealed envelopes all over her desk. She was planning, preparing, not panicking, but aware. She knew time might be short. Some of those letters hinted at danger. One she gave to her butler Paul Burrell mentioned dark forces. Another sent to a close friend talked about powerful people who wanted her silenced. These weren't just dramatic statements, they were clues that she didn't feel safe, and yet she kept working. But the letter to Anne, it was different. It didn't scream, it whispered. She wrote about how outdated royal traditions were falling apart, about how her sons deserved a chance to be human, not just royal figures on a balcony. She wasn't asking Anne to fight anyone. She was asking her to understand, to guide, to protect in a way that allowed her sons to become their own men. And for a moment, everything about their supposed rivalry melted away. But that rivalry, oh, it was real, and it went way back. The Queen's only daughter was the tough one, the horse-riding, no-nonsense, duty-first royal who didn't care for frills or feelings. Diana, on the other hand, was the heart, the glam, the empathy, the one who connected with the public like no royal ever had. And they clashed, often silently, sometimes sharply. There was the famous moment in the late 80s when Diana tried to speak up during a family meeting and Anne reportedly rolled her eyes. Or when Diana's charity work started gaining global attention and insiders claimed Anne was not amused that a young newcomer was suddenly the star of the show. To Anne, that limelight should have stayed focused on duty, not drama. But what if all of that coldness masked something else? What if Diana saw in Anne a kind of strength she didn't have? Not the emotional kind, but the steel spine kind. The kind of strength needed to shield her sons from the harsh winds of palace politics. That's what made the letter so surprising and so important. It wasn't a love letter. It wasn't emotional or overflowing. It was clear, direct, the way Anne would write. Maybe that was the point. I know you won't show them affection the way I do, Diana wrote, but you'll keep them safe, and they'll need that more than anything. Let that sink in for a second. Diana, who had all but been pushed to the edge of the royal family by the time she died, still believed in Anne's ability to be the anchor William and Harry would need when everything else fell apart. And fall apart it did. After Diana's death, the royal family was thrown into chaos. The public mourned like never before. William and Harry were left motherless at 15 and 12. The Queen was criticized. Charles was awkwardly silent. And Anne, she was present. Not loudly, not publicly, but she stood behind the boys at Diana's funeral. She checked in during the holidays. Years later, Harry even thanked his aunt in his memoir, not with big words, but with a quiet respect. Maybe that's what Diana hoped for. The discovery of this letter has made historians reevaluate Anne's roles in the boys' lives. She wasn't the hugger, she wasn't the protector in a warm, motherly sense, but she was consistent. And when you're lost in a storm, sometimes the lighthouse is what keeps you from crashing. And here's the wildest part of all. The letter was never meant to be public. It wasn't one of Diana's leaks. It wasn't part of some tell-all. It was private, meant to be quietly delivered. Maybe Anne read it, maybe she didn't. But that red wax seal stayed shut for 26 years. That means someone out there kept Diana's final wish hidden all this time. So now the questions return. Why was it hidden? Why now? Who benefits from its reveal? And how much more did Diana try to say before she died? Because if this one letter existed, who's to say there aren't more? Once you read Diana's words, you realize she didn't just predict the future, she tried to prepare for it. And now that letter, quiet and forgotten for decades, speaks louder than ever.